Today I wanted to talk about when you feel stuck. Maybe you just stuck at a specific rank, or maybe you just can't beat that one friend you got, or that one guy at the local, and feel like you're not improving and don't know what to do. If you're listening to me right now, I have an expectation that you understand the basics of the game, right? You know how to whiff punish, how to block punish. You understand a little bit of the neutral. You have your bread and butter, some setups of some sort. You know what's going on. You know how to win and you know how to play. But you're just trying to reach, that max level. Maybe on the blue ranks, you try to reach the god ranks, or even in the purple ranks, trying to reach the blue, and so forth, right? A lot of people like to say that progress is not a straight line, which, in my opinion, it actually is. But the problem is with the perception, If you keep doing something consistently, you are going to see progress, but sometimes you're just not going to perceive it. The same thing that happens when you're doing a diet or you're working out and you don't feel like you're improving, but then somebody goes like, hey, have you been working out? I noticed that you lost some weight. You don't notice it yourself, but other people can notice. So I feel like progress in the game is a bit like that too. Sometimes you feel like you might be stuck, or maybe you're even losing some rank points because you're evolving and you're trying something new. Maybe you used to have one playstyle and you're trying a little bit of a different playstyle now in order to improve. So the way that I like to think about this is a little bit of in four ways, right? So the things that you can actually do to improve, you can look at it in four ways. You can think about your character, the opponent's character, you as a player, and the opponent as a player. Right, so first let's talk about what you can do with your character. The number one thing that I do when I feel stuck is I just go through once again through the whole move list and try to kind of look through things I'm not using. If I go in game with Azucena, right? I know for a fact that I don't use 443 enough as a whiff punish, and that is one of her best launchers. Whenever I whiff punish, I have a big problem with whiff punishing with her because I always whiff punish. I'm scared of whiff punishing with 3-2, which has like very good range, but I feel like it's a bit too slow, and also 443. So I always end up whiff punish with like just a 1-2 or something, which, I'm comparing 28 damage with, combo damage and then setups and all that, right? So even though I talked about looking for moves that you don't use, there is something to learn about having a very compact playstyle, just using just down forward ones, using just a percentage of the move list. But as you get better at the game and as you get better at playing with your character, you become more of a character specialist, right? You want to expand your horizons. You want to be able to use the whole move list of that character. So you may be reaching that point. So number one thing you can do is obviously go to your move list and watch for moves that you haven't been using. And number two would be just watch other players, watch good players, right? If you play somebody like Azucena, there's me, there's Kaiser, there's another Pakistani guy called Bilal, I think. If you play Raven, obviously there's I Am Fury, Haze, Immortal Soul. There's a lot of content creators that specialize on one character, right? And you can definitely follow them. Another thing that you can take the time to do is just optimize your combos and setups, right? You saw the combo that I just did. Right? With 443, so something like this. This into a setup, right? 64 damage. It's not too bad, but we can actually get a lot more. So we could do something like 74. It makes a big difference between you just doing a regular combo or actually optimizing so you can get as much damage as you can. Another thing that's also very important is knowing what to do on stance. Not only just mixing up your opponent, but understanding what they can do to counter your stance and have the answer ready for it. You know? For example, we're running 3-2. A lot of people like to down jab here because it's gonna stop your basically your main mix up, right? Your Liberator 2 and your Liberator down 3, down 4-4, right? He's gonna stop me, and if I do the low, he's also gonna stop me. So I have to already know the answer to that. So once I know that, once he does that once, what I can do is to not do anything, and then she's just gonna jump over the down jab. Or an orbital. You just gotta know the answer to those things. Not only know the answer, but just have the finger on the trigger. So when people start doing that, you know the counter instantly. So that's enough about your character, right? Now let's talk about what you can do about learning the opponent's character. So a good start is to actually go into the punishment training. So if you go over here on training mode, and then there's the punishment training, they're gonna give you, you know, good answers, right? That's a good place to start. Now, if you want to go more in depth or you don't have the DLC, I do have videos for the punishment for basically all the DLC characters. If you don't already own them and you can't do the punishment training with them, right? Number 2 is there's this website. You can just write your name in here and it's gonna show you some stats. What I want you to look at is click your main, click the character you're trying to play, and there you go. Best matchup, worst matchup. So the same way that I just told you to look throughout the DLC characters, if you use this, you can see which characters you tend to struggle a lot. Besides, you already know the characters you don't like playing. But here, it's literally by the numbers, the characters you struggle a lot. So maybe it would be beneficial to you to go and learn how to play against these characters specifically. Another thing that's really important to understand is what I like to call situations. For example, things that happen like multiple times a game. For example, you block Brian's back 1, or you get hit by a Dragunov's down 2. Okay, so we're talking about situations, right? For example, when you get hit by a Dragunov down 2, he's at -1. So if he tries to down 2 into wall standing 4, you just know that you're gonna counter hit him every time. So that's the layer 1. But then he can start doing stuff like that. He can sidestep your wall standing 4. Sometimes. I don't know exactly the timing, but something like that. Okay, so for example, at tip range, he could backdash, or he can sidestep your wall standing 4, and then that's the layer 2 in the mix. But then you get to the other level where now you don't wanna wall standing 4 because he can backdash or sidestep and punish you're whiffing your wall standing 4, then you don't press anything. That's when he goes and then start taking advantage of it because you don't want to press wall standing 4. So understanding this dynamic, understanding the options you have and understanding the options that they have in this kind of situations that happen over and over again in a matchup. Now let's focus on what you're thinking about you as a player. Okay, you as a player, not your character, but you as a player. So the number one thing is to not get pissed off. This game is the most maddening game ever created. Like, you just have to understand that you're gonna get mad and it's normal. Try to, compose yourself as much as possible. It's kind of rich coming from me because I get mad all the time, but sometimes I really have to tell myself, hey, the only way I lose this match is if I get mad. Obviously, you heard all this before, you gotta take some breaks, you should drink water. Drink water specifically is actually very good because you can't really clutch your jaw in anger and drink water at the same time. So drinking water in a way kind of makes you relax your face muscles. So then it makes you relax. That's why, I don't know if that's why, but I think that's why when you see tournaments, they're always like, after every round, they just go. After every round, after every match. I think that's why. It just helps you calm down a little bit. How your mind and your body are, right? If you play tired after work, obviously you're not gonna play your best. If you didn't sleep well, you're not gonna play your best. That's why I actually love to play right after I come back from the gym, because my body's releasing those endorphins and I feel good and I'm enjoying. I feel like I get way less frustrated when I play right after the gym compared to me randomly playing and getting hungry and whatever. Another thing is understanding your strengths and weaknesses. So as for myself, I know that one of my strengths is my defense. I have very good throw breaks. If you do a string with a high, I'm gonna duck and punish. I think I can react to most snake edges in the game. But like I said before, my weakness is that I am not as optimal as maybe I should be. Like I said before, right? I can whiff punish pretty good with something like a down 4-2, but I'm always doubting myself if I can really whiff punish with a 4-4-3. My most powerful launchers or things that have very good range, because they're slow. I always feel like I might be a little bit too late and then I'm gonna get punished for it. So sometimes somebody with something small, I'm gonna try to punish with a down forward 1-3 because it's safe, and I'm just gonna get just a little bit of damage. So know your own strengths and weaknesses. Okay, now last but not least, you want to consider your opponent not as just the character, but also as the players, right? So you want to look and try to adapt to their tendencies. Every single Tekken player has flowcharts. You gotta try to get good at recognizing those flowcharts, I have a video that shows a cheese for every character, and it's very much like that. A bunch of people just use those flowcharts because they work. For example, I've been playing Leroy recently, and one thing I do all the time, let's say I do a move that I go on the stance, and I do 4 to check him, to keep him honest. If they block, I go 1-2, and that's gonna parry, a jab or a down forward 1, like that. So if he blocks this and tries to jab, check. I do this all the time, but if you're the Dragunov player here, instead of jabbing, you gotta wait, or you gotta do a low, or you gotta do something else. Just watch out for flowcharts like that, because everybody has them. Also, again, back to knowing your character, if your character has a stance, Once again, you know over here, and people like to down jab. What are you gonna do? People try to back swing blow. What are you gonna do? People try to armor through the move. What are you gonna do? Lilith tries to sidestep. What are you gonna do? So you gotta know the answers for everything, especially if your character has a stance. Next is to abuse their weakness. So, you know, the same way that I said that you should know your own weakness, you gotta test your opponent and figure out what's their weak. If they can never break a throw, just toss their ass around and it's over. You know? If they can't break throws, if they're always ducking, if they're always ducking at the wall, just really watch them and know that they have weaknesses too. And use momentum. This game is very reliant on momentum. And never give up. You know, if you're 1 HP and you get 3 or 4 mix-ups right, you win. Never give up. No round is lost. If you're 1 HP, you got heat. Use heat. Like, it's gonna come back next round. Yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of all the stuff that you can do if you feel like you're stuck and you can't really improve at the game no more.